Welcome to Global Interpreting Services. I'm Mark Saber, the Sales and Marketing Manager, and I'd like to introduce Dawn Flanagan. She's our President and CEO of Global Interpreting. She has 4 national certifications and is a sign language interpreter.
Good afternoon and welcome to Global. We are here to introduce everyone to our new training program for police and public safety personnel called Have You Heard? It teaches skills on effective communication with deaf, hard of hearing, deaf, blind, and low English speaking people. Effective communication is so important in every facet of life, but extremely important when dealing with people's lives and liberty. People are nervous when dealing with an authority figure, but when people are at a disadvantage, they are even more so. This, combined with the lack of ability to appropriately communicate or having the ability to recognize when there is a communication barrier, may lead to miscommunication and in some instances has resulted in injuries and false accusations. 26 years ago, I started Global Interpreting Services. Soon after, we began doing trainings in person. Now, almost 3 decades later, we have taken that in-person workshop and combined them into this 3-part course that will provide officers and public safety persons with ADA and Title VI compliance guidance and with real-world applications that go beyond what is currently being taught. The City of Warren worked diligently with us to ensure that we had real-life situations for our training videos, and I would like to publicly thank Commissioner Dwyer, Deputy Commissioner Robert Ahrens, Captain William Reichling, and Captain Steve Showers, along with the other wonderful staff members who assisted us in developing this training.
I'd like to take a moment to introduce Commissioner William Dwyer. He is the Warren Police Commissioner. This is actually his 2nd tour as the Warren Police Commissioner. He was previously an Oakland County Commissioner. He spent 23 years at Farmington Hills as the police chief, and another 23 years at the Detroit Police Department. We've been working with Commissioner Dwyer to help develop this program, and being the very forward-thinking person that he is, he helped us a great deal and committed a lot of the department resources to helping us achieve this. Commissioner Dwyer?
Well, thank you very much. It probably sounded like I've been around a long time, which I have been. So, seriously speaking, law enforcement, I started on April 13th, 1962 in Detroit. So I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot as far as what's happened in law enforcement, the need for training, and training has been a priority for a number of years. But training, we covered the training as far as de-escalating training, diversity training, bias training, firearms training, all sorts of training. But we really never had a program such as this. I mean, partnering with Global is really a big thing for us and for Global. And I think that when you look at the deaf or the hard of hearing, or those that, quite frankly, are in an area that doesn't give them the knowledge to be able to continue with their lives sometimes, and then they're faced with law enforcement has to know that these people need help. We want to be able to communicate. That's the key. I mean, law enforcement today it's a very professional organization. I mean, things have changed so much over the years, and then we have to deal with some of these politicians in other states such as New York, Chicago, LA, where they want to defund the police departments. I mean, it's hard for me to even imagine that people would even talk that way. But, I think that again, effective communications is the key. You have low English communities that we have to communicate with, and quite frankly, through the training that the road officers are going to receive and the detectives, it's very important that those that are hard of hearing, as I said, or deaf, or in a low English community, that the officers can understand what they're going through. I said before that we do a lot of diversity training and bias training, but we really want to get into this area that really is a new area for law enforcement. When you talk about the hard of hearing or the deaf people or the low English communities. And I think that, we're criticized a lot. Law enforcement has a tough job out there. I've never seen it this tough in all my long years in law enforcement. It just hasn't happened. And today it's a different thing. I think this really bridges the communications gap between the community and law enforcement, thanks to Global. We appreciate it very much. And this is something that our officers are looking forward to. It wasn't too long ago that we had the in-car cameras. Now we have the body cams. And quite frankly, body cams today are so welcomed by law enforcement throughout this country. It's unbelievable. 10 years ago, it probably wouldn't have been accepted the way it's accepted today. But it's accepted today because we're under the gun. Law enforcement is under the gun today. I mean, as I said earlier, people are critical of law enforcement. They don't support law enforcement. They don't support the men and women in blue. And I think that this is just another way for us to acknowledge to the public that we care about people, that are hard of hearing, or the deaf people, or people that have come from a low English community. And it's going to beneficial not only them, but us in law enforcement. So I thank Global for the opportunity. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome our Executive Vice President, Dano Milanovic, to join me up here as we thank everyone. We would like to thank everyone for joining us today, and we are honored that you took the time to be with us and that you too understand the importance of effective communication and you see how diverse our communities are and are becoming. We would like to thank the Learning Development Institute, LDI, for their assistance and patience with us as we combed through years and years of data and information and whittled it down to our final project. We would also like to thank M1 Studios for shooting such wonderful footage. It is our hope that everyone takes steps toward becoming more fluent in the knowledge of effective communication, and Have You Heard is a great way to do that. For more information for training on police and public safety personnel, please contact Global Interpreting Services, 586-778-4188, or look us up on any social media platform. You can also find us on our website at www.globalinterpretingservices.com. Thank you so much.
Are there any questions anybody has?
Yes, if any, either Dawn or Dano, is that it?
Yes.
If either of you could, from Global Interpreting Services, if either of you could just talk about what it really means to have police departments like Warren really work with you guys and as you try to really help the community. And then we'll step into the mic.
Oh, yes.
Like, how important is it to to the citizens in these communities to really have a police department be progressive and really try to work with them?
It would be so important because there have been so many miscommunications and misunderstandings between police officers and citizens because they did not understand what was trying to be communicated, say when they're pulled over or during an interrogation, because they didn't have an interpreter or they didn't have a way to communicate. And wrong information has been given or someone has been detained incorrectly, they had the wrong person. And so having an understanding that an interpreter is needed or that they need to communicate a certain way is so very important. There's been many instances, I mean, just Google it. So many times people have been even shot or killed because they did not know that the person was deaf or didn't understand English. And they were just simply trying to communicate instead of, flashing a gang sign or, they thought that they were acting aggressively when really they were just trying to say, I don't understand.
One of the things that Commissioner Dwyer mentioned was de-escalation. If you think about it, this is part of de-escalation. So we're talking to some other groups that are doing this in conjunction with their what they call CIT training, crisis intervention, and that's de-escalation is part of that, and then this fits into that. This is a tool for de-escalation.
How long does the training run?
It's 3 40-minute modules. It's an e-learning course, so it's done online at the pace. One of the things that we learned from these guys is that nowadays, they really don't have the ability to bring all the officers in for a seminar, a live seminar, and that the e-learning is really the method that police are going to. So with their help, we did that. We created that for that exact reason.
Thank you.
Commissioner, can you say how rapidly that a typical traffic stop could escalate if someone's perceived as being uncooperative because of a hearing impairment or a language impairment?
Well, it moves very quickly, obviously. That's why this training is so important. And a lot of the situations that occur on the street is because of a misunderstanding, lack of communications between that particular driver and the police officer trying to do his job or her trying to do her job. So that's why it's important, and that's why I think we're going to have less problems because of this training, and it's going to really enhance our ability to communicate with those that are in need and have a better understanding of those that are in need.
Can you say when it's going to be deployed?
What's going to be, when?
Yes, the technologies that are available right now.
Yeah, almost immediately. The officers are going through the training, and they'll continue to go through the training until the entire department is trained, and we have close to 250 police officers in Warren.
Do you envision this as becoming a nationwide standard for police departments?
Well, I would hope. I mean, it's something that's really beneficial to everyone in law enforcement, including those that are out there that have problems as far as communicating, be it deaf or hard of hearing or whatever. So yeah, I would hope it would become a national trend, just like everything else, all of our training, bias training. We're working with a very diverse country today, more diverse than ever before. When I was in Farmington Hills, there was over 125 different languages spoken in Farmington Hills. That's how diverse it was. Farmington Hills was the most diverse community in the state of Michigan. So I learned a lot being on the Cultural Diversity Committee in Farmington Hills going back. So I think this program is just another step in a very positive direction.
One of the things that makes this all possible, besides the training, is the video and phone interpreting that is now available. And that's kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about technology. So Warren PD has been using these services for at least a few years. And the idea that, and we talked about a traffic stop, is that an officer literally can have an interpreter on their phone in seconds. So you can go from an awkward situation to a resolved situation quickly without it getting who knows what. So that technology of being able to have phone or video interpreting has really made a lot of this possible, and also makes it available in more rural areas where the ability of live interpreters is not as common. Any more questions?
Please.
Oh, go ahead.
Let me just quickly add that, yeah, absolutely. I mean, now with the interpreters, within minutes on a traffic stop, the officers can dial up an interpreter through Global and communicate with Global and the person that's in need of the communication network and the officer himself. So it's really unique when it comes to immediately having that interpreter available for you, not waiting till you get into the station and you've had a situation occur that unfortunately happened on the road. You communicate right there, then and there, at the traffic stop within minutes, because we have the interpreter there to provide that service.
And just real quick, how is that service provided? Does a video pop up that the person is able to communicate between the officer and the person who is deaf?
So in a traffic stop situation with a foreign language and you're using the phone, the officer would dial a number, that's to the interpreting service, and then punch in a code. It asks for what language you want, and then once you do that, an interpreter will pop up on the phone. So literally, the officer is standing there and the interpreter will be working with them. Now for sign language, obviously you can't do that. You have to use video. So Warren PD, for instance, has iPads designated for this exact purpose, but you could use any computer with a screen. I mean, it's obviously very handy to have these iPads, and therefore then you get a sign language interpreter that would pop up and do the interpreting for you in those situations. Any more questions? All right, well, I want to thank everybody for coming, and I want to thank all of you for attending, and I'm sure everybody, the commissioner, the senator, and everybody else, the trustee will be available if you want to ask them some questions or talk to them afterwards.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you.